Hello and welcome to FDT-TV. My name is Mike, and as you will notice, we are doing things slightly different this week. Firstly, apologies for not recording the podcast last week. Unfortunately, I was having some internet issues, which means I couldn't upload the podcast, which is proper shit. But also, Ian is currently away on his travels with his family, so he's currently on holiday at the moment. But we are back this week. A few things to go over, obviously, in Ian's absence, but we still move on with the podcast regardless. In relation to the predictions, as some of you regular people will know, we do a regular predictions to win the coveted FIFA Day Trophy Predictions Trophy, which Ian currently has at the moment, but I actually won it last year, so I'm waiting to get that off him. So, when he returns, Ian, if you're watching, I'm coming to get that trophy. Don't you worry about it, son. So moving very swiftly on with this week's podcast, there's a few things I wanted to cover. Obviously, we are into to game 3 now of this season. The season's well underway, and we have seen a couple of games, obviously, since the last podcast was recorded. So, just looking very quickly at Arsenal. Obviously, as you can see, I'm an Arsenal fan. You can see the shirts behind me. Ian is a West Ham fan, so we mainly talk about those, but we do cover all things Premier League and football regardless. So, moving very swiftly on to recap what has happened. So, in the last couple of weeks, we did see Arsenal play Crystal Palace. We won that game 1-0 with a penalty converted by Martin Odegaard. Very quick thinking from Martinelli, pushing the ball through to Eddie Nketiah. He was quick to react. Unfortunately, the goalkeeper even was slow to react and consequently brought down Eddie Nketiah in the box and calmly converted by Martin Odegaard to give him the win. Now, this week's game we have seen us at home to Fulham. The score was 2-2. This one was a very disappointing game. We did see goals from Saka and Nketiah very close to the end of the game, but couldn't see the game out. We conceded very early and very late on in this particular fixture. Now, what I wanted to obviously go over in this podcast is we did see a winning formula last year. Granted, we didn't see us lift the title, unfortunately, but we did see through vast amounts of the time last year a pairing between Gabriel and Saliba. Saliba is looking very fit now. Very good now that he's back from his injury, which caught him at the end of last season and see us possibly the demise of us a little bit. But I can't work out what is going on with the formation. Gabriel seems to be left on the bench as it stands at the moment. He's made a couple of substitution appearances, and obviously when when Mikel Arteta has been questioned by the media after each games, asking what the situation is, we seem to be getting the response that obviously the games are coming thick and fast this year. We've already seen Jury and Timber out of the squad currently because of an injury picked up in the first game against Nottingham Forest, but I can't work out what's going on. We seem to be playing Thomas Partey at right back. The midfield, obviously Odegaard's doing what Odegaard does. Declan Rice does what Declan Rice does, but there's gaps all over the place. And obviously we saw a massive hole for Fulham to pounce upon at the weekend and score very quickly with a sloppy back pass. Excuse me. And then conceding right at the end. But I really don't know what's going on with this formation currently. I'm hoping, obviously, is Arteta kind of experimenting to see what players that he's brought in fit where. Obviously, we've seen Kai Havertz. There's kind of mixed reviews about what he's doing. I'm seeing some people on social media absolutely obliterating his performance. Doesn't really seem to be getting into the matches, but when you have a look at his stats for duels won, amount of passes, etc., he seems to be kind of right out there. So I'm a little bit confused as to what to take with him. Again, I think he's a confidence player. Obviously, with the fans getting on his back at the moment, it's probably not helping his confidence, but Arteta clearly sees something in him in order to keep selecting him. But we've got a very important game coming up at the weekend, obviously against Manchester United. We lost 2-0 in the pre-season, so we want to kind of put things right for that. I really don't know what's going on with that one. And also we've had the return of Gabriel Jesus as well, back from injury. Was thrown on, I think, for the last 5 minutes or so, last 5-10 minutes of the game against Fulham, but didn't really have much time to make an impact. But so do we see him start the weekend? Who knows? I think it's going to be very soon to kind of rush him into into the starting lineup. Obviously, I suppose it just depends on how he trains over the weekend, because the last thing that we're going to want to do is for someone that's had a niggling injury is to throw him into the deep end and consequently put him out again for large amounts of this season. So, yeah, that being said, Nketiah's cropped up with a couple of goals. Saka's obviously bundling in with the goals as well. So it's not all doom and gloom. It was a very disappointing result against Fulham. So we'll just have to see what happens going forward. Hopefully no injuries that we pick up during this week in training. And we'll hopefully get an improved result this weekend against Manchester United. West Ham, moving very quickly on. The last couple of games are looking absolutely unbelievable this season. I'm sure if Ian was on here, we would get the customary "we are fucking massive" comment. Currently sitting top of the league, second in the league at the moment. Obviously Manchester City won yesterday, so they were briefly sitting on top of the league. Two very good performances against Chelsea and against Brighton, which I think most people would have written them off for over the last couple of weeks. Certainly myself and Ian, as you'll find out in our predictions later, we weren't very confident going into these games, but they seem to be proving everyone wrong at the moment, and I don't know how Ian will feel about these performances. Obviously, he mentioned a couple of weeks ago, if you go and check out our other videos, is it time for David Moyes to go? We've seen a couple of good recruitments into West Ham. James Ward-Prowse, what a player. I think he was an absolutely brilliant signing and an absolute steal for West Ham. Obviously cropping up with the goals and the assists over the course of the last couple of games. So I am confident that he is going to be an outstanding player for West Ham. He was a consummate professional for Southampton, and may things continue for West Ham. I think they're going to have a good season this year. Obviously, they're in the Europa League this year from winning the Conference League last year. And no doubt Ian may have already shared his pictures of him standing next to the Conference League. If not, go and check out his Twitter. You will find that in the description below. If you want to go see that, if he has uploaded it, I might be send you on a wild goose chase. He's not even uploaded it, but he has recently gone to see the conference cup, which West Ham currently hold. Obviously, we do have a little bit of time now. I say a little bit of time now. The rest of this week, we have got the remainder of the transfer window. Are we going to see some players coming and going over the course of this week? We definitely will be. I suppose the subject is who is going to be going. West Ham could look to further recruit, obviously, with the money that they receive from Declan Rice. West Ham, I think, still need a striker. This is obviously my personal opinion, and no doubt we'll touch on this again next week when Ian returns. But they need, I think, an out-and-out striker. I think Scamacca's already gone after one season, and you can't rely on Antonio for the course of the season to play down the middle. But again, that's more Ian's forte, and no doubt that we'll speak to that once the window closes next week. But in terms of Arsenal, I know that we've had Kieran Tierney has gone out on loan for this season now. He's gone to Real Sociedad on loan with no obligation to buy. Balogun looks like he's on his way out, and there's rumours of further potential ins. Obviously, with the injury to Jurrien Timber, could see us dip into the market once again, and obviously we know the injury problems that we've had within the squad. There could be another couple of positions up for grabs as well. I also want to talk about Tottenham. I don't really like talking about Tottenham, but again, you've got to say that they've looked pretty good over the course of the last few weeks. Currently sitting in third, I believe, as it stands at the moment, only on goal difference. But they are looking pretty good, and I think it goes to ask the question: was Harry Kane causing the problems at Spurs? We're seeing a lot of fluidity within Tottenham. They are looking like they can score goals, and I know we have got them coming up in the next couple of weeks, so could be an interesting one. Obviously, we are conceding silly goals as it stands at the moment, but we need to sort out those issues quickly. If we're to, or in fact, just in general, we need to sort that regardless of who the opponent is, because it's going to be those ones where we do concede early. And Fulham did an outstanding job of kind of quashing us for about 70 minutes of the game. We need to sort those issues out quickly. Another thing I wanted to pick up is something that I wanted to speak about last week. Obviously, as I mentioned at the start of the podcast, we've had a few issues here, which meant I couldn't upload the podcast. So, it's been a bit of a naff one. But I'm sure everyone's seen those comments from Mike Dane recently. Had an interview and basically come out and said that he didn't want to throw his mate under the bus. He was having a bit of a torrid game anyway. And the match in question was Tottenham versus Chelsea. And I think it was Cucurella had his hair pulled. Old Sideshow Bob had his hair pulled right at the or towards the end of the game, and Spurs then consequently went on and scored an equaliser. He basically come out and said that he didn't want to tell the ref at the time to go look at the monitors because he was having a bit of a torrid game. Now, this comes back to something which Ian has talked about several times in terms of match fixing. I'm not necessarily saying it's match fixing in this example, but I suppose it is to an extent. But it kind of throws into question the the integrity of the PGMOL. But Howard Webb has already come out and issued a statement, and I'm going to read you the statement verbatim. So it says, regarding comments made by former match official Mike Dean yesterday, a PGML spokesperson said VARs undergo extensive training with focus centred entirely around effectively working with the on-field team of officials to rectify clear and obvious errors. When VAR identifies a clear and obvious error by the on-field team of match officials, they should intervene and recommend a review by the referee. We strongly refute any suggestion that VARs do not intervene for whatever reason where they have identified a clear and obvious error. I'm going to call bullshit on that one already, because we know that isn't the case. We've seen six errors at Christmas last year where they've come out and said, there's an error. And also we've already seen some questionable decisions already this season. It's not good reading, folks. It's really not good reading. And personally, I would err on the side of Mike Dean, because why would he lie about that sort of thing? It doesn't make sense. Obviously, the officials are going to come out and say, we do everything that we can to ensure that there's the right outcome for whatever team. But I would go as far as to say they're going out of their way to ensure that the correct decision is made for the right teams. We've had some very questionable decisions already. Red cards are already overturned. We've had week one, VAR come out and said for the game against Wolves against Manchester United, where they should have been offered a penalty, but obviously the final whistle went, and they were very quick to come out and say, "Oh, sorry, we've made a mistake there," but it doesn't change the position, because Wolves should have got a point out of that, and they were robbed of 3 points or 2 points. for that particular fixture. I don't really think the VAR have got a leg to stand on as it stands at the moment. So it's not going to be the first time or the last time that we speak about VAR this year. Obviously, we have seen stricter rules in terms of dissent, and we've seen people already getting red cards left, right, and centre for picking up a silly yellow card for dissent or time wasting, and then subsequently putting a little bit of a silly foul or not. In the case of Tomiyasu against Crystal Palace, got booked for time wasting when he held the ball for 7 seconds, but unfortunately it was the guys before that were taking a piss in terms of time wasting, and unfortunately he was the one to kind of suffer the consequences. But a couple of minutes later, Jordan Ayew fell to the floor. Tomiyasu, I would argue that he's barely touched him or touched him at all, but because he's gone down waving his arms, obviously Tomiyasu's already on a yellow card, and that decision can't be overturned. Very frustrating, and again causing to question the integrity of the match officials. But hey ho, that seems to be, as I said, it's going to be a recurring topic over the course of the season. But we'll no doubt speak about that when Ian's back. Obviously, if there's any more controversies over the course of the next weekend or the match weekend. But yes, going on to predictions. Obviously, myself and Ian, we make predictions every week, and we've had to do things slightly different this week because of the fact that Ian's currently away. I have got some pre-recorded predictions. We've obviously made these very early on in the season because Ian was going to be away. We weren't to know what the results were going to be at the particular time that we made these predictions. But obviously, I'm in the know because I know that things have changed over the course of the couple of weeks. So on this side of fairness, I'm just going to keep with the pre-recorded messages, and I will put those up for you very shortly. But just going back over the last couple of weeks, I will just run through the predictions that we made. So West Ham versus Chelsea, Palace versus Arsenal, and Manchester City versus Newcastle. Ian put down a 5-0 loss to Chelsea, and I put 2-1 loss to West Ham. And the score, of course, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, West Ham on a bit of a flyer, 1-3-1 on that one. For Crystal Palace versus Arsenal, I had 2-3 to Arsenal, and Ian put 1-3 to Arsenal. The score was 1-0, as I've already mentioned, so that's a point each for the correct result. And then finally, Man City versus Newcastle. Ian had 3-1 to Newcastle. I had 3-2. The score was 1-0, so that's a point each. So looking at the totals for that week, so 2 points to Ian and 2 points to me. And for this weekend, Arsenal versus Fulham, we both had a 3-0 win to Arsenal down on that one. And then Brighton versus West Ham, Ian had 3-1 to Brighton, I had 2-1. And obviously the score was 3-1 to West Ham. So the draw for Arsenal, win for West Ham, so 0 points for this week. That puts the season totals currently. Ian is currently on 4 points and I am on 6. And here's this week's predictions. So here we are back again for this week's prediction show. Obviously, as I mentioned last week, we are having to do these a couple of weeks in advance because of Ian's taken some much needed vacation time. So on to this week's predictions. We have Luton versus West Ham and Arsenal versus Manchester United. Ian, we already saw in week one Luton get an absolute tonking. I think it's going to be much the same throughout the course of this season. Sorry, Adam. Adam's a guy I work very closely with at my company. He's a massive Luton fan. But obviously, we don't know what happened in week 2 currently because these are being recorded in advance. We may see some shock results. But obviously, your trip to West Ham, to Luton, where do you see this one going?
I think this is West Ham's first 3 points of the season. I have to say that. A few West Ham players or youth academy products are abundant in this Luton team. Pelly Ruddock and Panzu, exciting player. First player to go from non-league to the Premier League with one club. That's an interesting fact for you. Dan Potts used to play left back for us. I was quite excited when I was younger. I thought he's going to come through and be our left back. He's not. I don't think he's a first team starter now either. And Reece Burke, another defender who could have played for West Ham, but it didn't quite work out. But I do think we're going to start seeing the James Ward-Prowses of this team coming into play in this game. A couple of good free kicks, maybe a penalty here or there. I mean, Moyes takes his time to put in new signings, so that could be interesting. But I do think we're going to have a little bit too much for Luton. But we've been on a bit of a trowel, so I'm going to go 2-1.
2-1
to West Ham. First 3 points. Also, Ross Barkley now plays for Luton, which could be interesting.
Yes, yeah. My as I've just mentioned, Adam's name was very excited with the signing of Ross Barkley. Obviously, when he plays, he does do really well, but obviously has had a few injury problems in the past, and not really that much of a run in teams. Obviously spent some time out in France as well. But anyway, moving swiftly on. I think this is going to be a comfortable win for West Ham on this one. I'm going to go for 3-0 to West Ham on this one.
I'd take it. At this point, I'd take it.
Obviously, we don't know what's happened in the last two fixtures currently, but you're right. This could be the first 3 points of West Ham pick up, or the first one in the season. But moving very swiftly on to this particular fixture, Arsenal versus Manchester United. Obviously, we saw them in the pre-season. Manchester United definitely got the better of Arsenal in that particular game. There were some absolute tackles flying around in that particular fixture, and I think for a pre-season game, it was kind of like Ivan Drago versus Rocky Balboa in a pre-season. What should have just been a nice, quite friendly exhibition. I think both teams, or certainly one team, was taking it a little bit far too seriously. And dare I say, throughout the course of the first week, obviously we see Manchester United get the better of Wolves in that particular game. Some would say a little bit. Wolves were definitely robbed of a penalty late on in that particular fixture. I'll be interested to see how they do over the course of the next couple of weeks. But as it stands at the moment, this is never a friendly competition between the two teams, even in pre-season friendlies. There's a lot of history between the two clubs, and I do see goals in this one up, but I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw on this one.
Yeah, I think you're probably not far off. I mean, week one, they beat Wolves where it should have been a draw. Week two, they've got Tottenham. I'm talking Manchester United. Tottenham look deadly if they can find a fox in a box. They're going to be laughing this season if they play the way they did. I think they're going to lose to Tottenham. I think Nottingham Forest could creep up on them, be a result that maybe doesn't quite work. But this could be the turning point. I'm going to go. Part of me wants to go 0-0. You know, I'm going to go 1-0 Man United just to be a little bit different. I think if they've had a bit of a torrid time, it's got the wheels have got to start turning at some point. And I think it could be this game that they step up, knowing that it's a big occasion, and they catch you off guard. 1-0 to Manchester United.
Cool. Okay, so just to recap then, we've got Luton versus West Ham. You've gone for 2-1 to West Ham. I've gone for 3-0. And for Arsenal versus Manchester United, you've gone for a 1-0 win to Man U, and I've gone for 2-2. By the time we come to the next lot of predictions, Ian will be back from his vacation, so we'll do the points recap then. But yeah, we'll get back to the actual podcast.
Yes. Goodbye.
So there we go, guys. That is our predictions for this week. If you have stayed this far to watching the podcast, thank you so much for sticking with us, or sticking with me, should I say, for the course of this podcast. Like I said, it is a little bit different this week because Ian is away, but we should be back to normal next week, going into the international break. Excuse me. Yes, if there's any of the topics that you want to discuss, please get involved with us on YouTube or on Twitter. You can see my Twitter handle here. Feel free to drop us a comment on there. We will get back to you when we can. And if you haven't already, please hit that like and subscribe button, and we will see you on the next video. Thanks very much.